Aki Malapo. A senior police official is said to leave the country today to meet over the death of South Africa's ambassador to France and Monaco, Natim Tetwa. The 58-year-old died in Paris last week after he allegedly fell from the 22nd floor of a popular hotel in the French capital. On Friday, police reported they would send a team of 5 senior detectives, but National Police Commissioner Fanny Masemola says only one will be heading to France. Addressing the media in Bloemfontein this afternoon, Masemola said the objective is to receive a report from French authorities regarding Tetwa's death.
We are working on a police-to-police cooperation, and we do have a senior officer that will be in that country. He will be leaving today, and will update the nation in terms of the activities and his whereabouts once he's there.
We move to the National Assembly, where KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has dismissed suggestions that the disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team was a political and lawful decision. Mkhwanazi maintains that the decision to disband the task team by Police Minister Senzo Mchunu was wrong and should not have been influenced by political machinations. The KwaZulu-Natal top cop was giving evidence on the first day of the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee's hearings into allegations of police corruption. Babala Ndenza has more.
Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi finally took to the hot seat after a lengthy delay due to issues around his sworn statement that was presented to the committee. Evidence leader Norman Arendse started his questioning by asking Mkhwanazi about his views on the Political Killings Task Team.
It will be argued that, not by me, I'm not here to present any arguments, but by some implicated, that this was a political initiative.
Mkhwanazi rejected the assertion, insisting that the matter can't be considered political.
I don't think the legislature cared as to which political party the member belongs to. So to put a statement and say it was a political decision, what if the minister is not a politician? So I don't think that argument will stand.
Mkhwanazi says the task team should be kept alive as the country approaches another election next year. Babala Ndenza, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Meanwhile, in the Madlanga inquiry, several persons of interest implicated by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi before the Madlanga inquiry have been issued notices to appear before the Commission. In a statement this afternoon, the Commission says it issued Rule 3 notices to several witnesses. Rule 3 provides for the Commission to invite or compel persons of interest to testify before it. Arun Singh reports.
Business people, members of parliament and senior police officers are among those KZN police boss Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi implicated when he testified before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry last month. Mkhwanazi claims alleged underworld figure Vuzimuzi Kat Matlala communicated with Northwest businessmen Brown Mokhotsi and Suleiman Karim in attempts to destabilize police investigations into criminal syndicates in Gauteng. He also implicated members of parliament Fadil Adams and Diane Collar Barnard, accusing them of making public sensitive information related to crime intelligence, which resulted in the arrest of his close ally, crime intelligence boss Dumisani Khumalo. While he wouldn't mention names, Madlanga Commission spokesperson Jeremy Michaels confirmed that several persons of interest mentioned by Mkhwanazi have been served with notices to appear as witnesses. The Commission will resume next week. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
Trade Minister Park Stau says words like tenderpreneurs contribute to harmful narratives about black business people and the policy of broad-based black economic empowerment. Tau has been speaking at the Frank Dialogue event in Sandton, which is discussing the future of the BBEE policy. The minister says while the policy has experienced challenges, it's done more good than harm. Tau says there are harmful connotations linked to BBEE.
If you are a black entrepreneur and you trade with government or you are appointed as a contractor in government, by extension you are a tenderpreneur. But if you are a white company and you provide services to government, you are an entrepreneur. And the list of these things continue as part of our daily language that themselves undermine broad-based black economic empowerment.
Tau says it's up to government to close the abuse loopholes within BBEE and regain public trust in the policy.
The benefit for investors will be an educated, highly skilled and productive labor force, high income and consumption level, and thus an opportunity to sustainably sell their goods and services.
And the World Trade Organization has today said AI-related goods and a surge in exports to the United States to beat President Donald Trump's tariff hikes boosted global merchandise trade growth this year. However, the WTO warned as it published its updated global outlook that the picture is bleaker for 2026 as the impact of those tariffs kicks in. The WTO raised its forecast for trade volume growth in 2025 to 2.4%, up from 0.9% in August, and slashed its 2026 outlook from 1.8% to 0.5%. In an unusual move, the global trade body has revised its estimates several times this year due to uncertainties surrounding the new tariffs imposed by the Trump administration. Since returning to office in January, Trump has slapped several waves of new tariffs on imports entering the United States. His administration has imposed a basic tariff of 10% on all countries since April, with much higher rates for some economies. Gold's trading at $3,970.12 an ounce. The rand's at 17.20 to the dollar, at 23.12 to the pound, at 20.08 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $65.23 a barrel.
In your sport, CAF absolutely confident that AFCON will go ahead and protest hit Morocco. South Africa begin their World Test Championship title defense against Pakistan. And World MotoGP champion Marc Marquez to miss 2 races with fracture.
A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Wednesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 15 degrees and peak at highs of 26. Pretoria is at 16 and 30. Vereeniging is at 10 and 27 degrees. A partly cloudy start for the mother city, becoming fine with fresh southerly winds at a low of 13 and a high of 21 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. A senior police official is set to leave the country today to meet investigators in France over the death of South Africa's ambassador to France and Monaco, Natim Tetwa.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage in the city of Tshwane, we still have bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is in the Pretoria North area due to roadworks causing about a 20-minute delay on Paul Kruger between Eskia Mphahlele and Rachel de Beer. In Claremont, Proclamation Hill area, bumper-to-bumper traffic on Bremer Street between the R55 Kwagga Road and the R80. In Mountain View, heading towards Soshanguve, traffic remains sluggish. This is on the R80 northbound, Mabopane Highway between Eskia Mphahlele and the Hairpin Bend. In the Mother City, there's an accident scene. This is on the R300 northbound after Stellenbosch arterial, causing huge delays. Just keep in mind the Huguenot Tunnel remains closed off to traffic, and there's still bumper-to-bumper traffic on the N1 inbound approaching the Koeberg interchange. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking. ABSA is a proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa 2025. Good evening, I'm Stephen Grootes, 9 minutes after 6. The gold price just getting, sort of, what's the right word? Flirting, getting closer, then moving away. Is that the right word? To $4,000 an ounce tonight. Watching it very closely. Got within sort of $10 overnight, but heading that way again. Fascinating just to watch it. And of course, the gyrations caused by so many different issues around the world at the moment. And mining, as always in South Africa, somehow front and center. And I'd presumed that there would be someone somewhere who would welcome the ANC's economic growth plans. The president announced them yesterday. So far, I haven't come across any one person who said this is the right thing to do. Now, look, it's economics. Ask a person how to fix the economy. If you ask 100 people, you'll get 100 answers. Ask 60 million of us, you'll get 60 million answers. So I expect that, sure. But even so, I was amazed to see the Minerals Council saying it would make things worse. We'll speak to the CEO of the Minerals Council, Mzila Mtanjane, in just a moment. He's already on hold for you. Also, Anne Bernstein, the Executive Director at the Centre for Development and Enterprise, get her view on it as well. Someone who's been watching our economy involved in our economic debates for a very, very long time. I'm one of those people who's been fascinated by what's been happening in the tobacco industry and how it's changed over the last 10 years, and the hard lockdown seems to have had an impact, but not the impact you would think. From what I understand, very few people stopped smoking. I know one or two who did, but very few people stopped smoking during the lockdown. And in fact, all it seems to have done is move people away from, in inverted commas, the formal tobacco industry into the, what's the right word? What's the opposite of formal in the tobacco industry? Oh, yes, illicit would be the right word. So, yeah, that's interesting. We'll talk about that with Professor Corné van Velbeek. He's a professor at the School of Economics and director of the Research Unit on the Economics of Excisable Products. And then I imagine, I don't know this for sure, but I'm almost certain if I were to ask you this question, do you get enough sleep? I know the answer. I'm almost certain. There's always something else to do rather than sleep. And I mean, I sound like a 13-year-old or a 21-year-old when I say that. But if you are working, if you have children, if you have both, you're almost certainly not getting enough sleep. Why? We'll speak to Dinesh Govender from Discovery Vitality. They've been doing a whole big research project on why we don't get enough sleep and the very poor quality of our sleep as well. Looking forward to that tonight, 12 minutes after 6.
The Money Show
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
and DSTV channel 856.
So I realize that my social group, if you like, is a tiny sort of focus group. There's no way that I can have a conversation with a few people and then come to you and say, I think this is happening. But let me just tell you what my very, 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 very small social group is talking about. And some of it was, and I was struck by this, there was a BBC article suggesting that fewer and fewer people are posting regularly on social media. So I think X, Facebook, particularly Facebook, LinkedIn too. And essentially, yes, you still look at it, but you're not actually putting anything on it. You might be, and I think LinkedIn is very useful for this, using it to track people down or to message people. So you're using it for that. But it does seem that there's less sort of personal content. By personal content, I mean my view on this is that kind of content, rather than corporate, which is, you know, my boss's view or my company's view, or this is really why you should hire me to do that view, if you know what I mean. And I just wondered if that chimes with you in any way. How are you using social media right now? Are you using it to express yourself, to find other people? Are you using it for something else? Or are you using it in the way you did, say, 5 years ago? 011 883 0702 021 446 0567. And I know you'll like the voice note on 072 702 1702. I find that I just don't use it as much. Now, look, I have, lucky enough to have a loud voice, and as everybody who knows me will tell you, not be afraid to use it. But I'm still just intrigued. I mean, maybe it's an age thing. Maybe it's just my focus group. Social media. How are you using it right now?
702. Stephen is on X.
At Stephen Grootes.
A lot more reaction to the ANC's grand new economic plan over the last few hours. I did expect a cynical reaction. I did not expect the Minerals Council coming out and saying the plans to help save the ferrochrome industry would make things worse. Yesterday, the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, saying there would be cheaper electricity tariffs for ferrochrome smelters and export controls on raw chrome. Mzila Mtanjane is the CEO of the Minerals Council South Africa. Mzila, good evening. The ANC says it wants to help the ferrochrome industry. What's wrong with these plans?
Good evening, Stephen, and thank you for having me. Am I coming through clearly? There's no interruption?
Yes, no, absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so I did go through the announcement that the NEC of the ANC published. And I mean, it's a concern that we've always had. I think first and foremost, we have the view that there has not been sufficient consultation with all stakeholders. understandably, the immediate focus is on saving the ferrochrome industry, rightly so. And most importantly, that intervention is about cheaper electricity tariffs, because that's a very competitive issue relative to countries like China. But I think the one aspect that we feel is missing is a holistic understanding of the structure of the chrome industry in South Africa, particularly where we've seen an increase in chrome production from the PGM industry as a byproduct. And what is being proposed in terms of a chrome tax is not going to have an impact, certainly in the first instance, in as far as increasing beneficiation, which we are fully in support of, because the issue is not one of a shortage of chrome for the beneficiators. And secondly, an imposition of any restrictions is going to impact most likely all of mining. And the third element is that I think what we're fearing is that this could be a precedent for other minerals in South Africa. And I think without effective consultation with both ferrochrome producers and primary chrome producers, I think the interventions that will be implemented will be short-lived and will probably have longer-term negative impacts.
Were you asked at all by the ANC? I mean, was there any consultation at all to hear from you about what might actually work?
No, there was not. There was conversation with some of our members who are ferrochrome producers, but there was not engagement with the rest of our members in the chrome industry who produce chrome. And I think it's important that their perspective is heard, because I think we share in the concern for low growth, low investment in mining. Certainly the current state of the fiscus and the lack of capacity to invest and stimulate and harness private sector investment. And we believe that these interventions could potentially even harm the current benefits that we're getting from export of chrome. And a much medium to longer term perspective needs to be taken in terms of how we come out of this situation.
What would work? I mean, if the ANC came to you now, Mzila, and said, look, we want to change things, we want to help the mining industry, we want to help the ferrochrome industry, I mean, what would you suggest?
So the challenge we're dealing with is a structural one, Stephen. We've had electricity challenges for a while now, since that mysterious bolt in one of our generation units was founded. And there has not been sufficient investment in electricity. South Africa has been a country that beneficiates for a long time, and it was largely as a result of cheap electricity from Eskom. So we have to address that issue in terms of how do we increase the reliability of electricity, and how do we make sure that that is accompanied with affordability. Now, we cannot embark on a strategy where we have to provide for favorable electricity tariffs, which will obviously result in some loss of revenue to Eskom in the first instance and most likely to government, and then hope to make that up with the chrome tax. And with imposing a chrome tax, you then damage the reputation of South Africa as an investment destination in mining overall. And this is something that we're trying to work on with government in terms of enhancing that. So I think that there's going to be some pain in the short term in as far as the favorable tariffs for Eskom, but it's important that we minimize any negative impact on the rest of the chrome mining industry. And while we're talking chrome, I should say in the same breath, manganese as well is in the same situation. And it's important that we don't also affect the PGM industry, the platinum group metals, who actually have been able to keep their heads above water as a result of the chrome byproduct that they've been mining. So I think it requires a conversation between chrome miners and the various government departments that have been involved. And out of that, I think we can come to a sweet spot in terms of how we move forward.
Mzila, thanks very much indeed. Mzila Mtinjane is the CEO of the Minerals Council South Africa. 20 minutes after 6, with the Money Show. Anne Bernstein is the head of the Centre for Development and Enterprise. Anne, good evening. A lot of talk over the last sort of 30 hours about the ANC's economic plans. Are you as what's the right word? Cynical, disappointed as everyone else?
Well, even if you think that South Africa is in the president's words, an economic emergency, and we have multiple other crises all around us, we find this a very strange response or intervention. It's muddled, it's vague in some parts, it lacks credibility, and it's all over the place. There's some highly detailed recommendations and then some very broad ones. It's hard to decode all of this. The most important thing is I think this is unlikely to inspire confidence in investors unless we get a lot more information and we get a feel that the ANC is ready to grapple with some fundamental changes. After all, you can't carry on with what we've been doing for so long and hope to get good results. So they seem very concerned about aligning all their policies, fiscal, monetary, and all industrial. We're much more concerned in the midst of a fiscal crisis in the sustainability of their policies.
I wonder almost if there's a lack of ambition. So much needs to happen. It is within the power of us as human beings, as South Africans, to do it. And yet, is there a sense of it's kind of tinkering around the edges?
Well, it's interesting you raise that because we released an important document today about the unemployment catastrophe and what needs to be done. And one of my conclusions is that the ANC has given up on their ability to create millions and millions of jobs. That's why in this intervention, the president focuses on the presidential employment stimulus. Well, what is this but public employment? It's using our tax money to pay for short-term jobs for young people. This is no way out of a massive crisis that involves some 12.5 million people who would like to work but cannot. We can't do it that way. You have to do it through markets and through some fundamental growth reforms. We've started some, I agree, but we need to look at the whole chessboard and how are we going to get investors to have confidence in this government and the dominant party in this government to actually make us attractive and competitive in a difficult global environment.
So, Anne, I mean, you've been asked this question probably a million times over the last 20 years. If it were up to you, what would you do to grow the economy? Part of it would be about regulation, part of it just boring old-fashioned infrastructure, part of it just making it easier to run a business.
Well, and part of it is stop doing what we called in a document in 2023, stop the anti-growth agenda. What's the anti-growth agenda? Well, it's various policies and actions from foreign policy to the NHI to a badly worded expropriation act. Stop it. These all hinder investment. So you have to look at the whole chessboard. You can't just look at when the president talks about his reform agenda, which sounds good, and you think, well, yeah, go faster, go deeper, hurry up. You have to look at everything else they're doing that are also priorities. And so I would say you've got to think hard about all the choices that are involved in growth. This is an economic emergency, and we have to do things differently. The president tells us in this document that from now on, merit appointments, or however you put it, professional appointments are non-negotiable. And you think, well, so they have been negotiable up to now. How can I believe you? Why don't you start with your cabinet for one?
Anne Bernstein, thanks very much indeed. Do appreciate it. Head of the Centre for Development and Enterprise. Well, I made the point earlier, and let me just make it again, because perhaps you want to prove me wrong. I have not yet heard anyone who's come out in strong support of the ANC's growth strategy, of what was announced yesterday. If you maybe know someone who is, I would really like to hear their point of view. There are other sides to this story. 011 883 0702 0214 567, and of course voice notes this Tuesday evening on 072 702 1702. I have lost count of the number of conversations I've been involved in, often with you, about how to grow the economy. We have been talking about this forever. You actually got to do something at some point would really be the story. It's not rocket science. Many people around the world have done it. Arguably, the best thing to happen to humanity, the most important achievement, has been what's happened in Asia in the last 50 years. It really is. It can be done. There's no reason why we can't do it here. 26 minutes after 6.
The Money Show.
The markets.
Marco Efstathiou is the lead specialist for investment and trading sales at ABSA. Marco, good evening. Thanks for coming in tonight. All right, gold. I mean, at one point, looked last night, then looked again just before we were coming on air, in fact, that it was going to touch $4,000.
Stephen, thank you very much. Absolutely. I mean, that move in the gold price has been phenomenal. And I think one of the main short-term drivers has been the government shutdown in the US. Lots of uncertainty, no data coming out of the US, and people rushing to safe haven assets, and gold is primary on that list.
I mean, Bitcoin's also been hitting record highs, I presume the same reasons.
I would think so. I mean, in my view, Bitcoin maybe not quite as a safe haven status as gold, but clearly investors do think that way. I think, for the longer term, we continue to see gold as quite a good trade. It's moved faster than we would have thought, but we still see it higher next year and the year after that. And there's a few reasons I think that are worth touching on. So firstly, US dollar weakness. We've seen the US continue to ease monetary policy. We've seen fiscal expansion, and that's resulting in inflation and a weaker dollar. We've also seen de-dollarization. So this is where central banks sell their dollars and buy gold. So they want to hold gold as a safe asset. ETF flows and investor demand. So as gold goes up, people want to buy it. And then finally, just all the geopolitical risks we've seen around the world has resulted in extensive safe haven purchases.
And I mean, none of this, as you say, is going to go away. And yet, some of the mining shares on the JSE were down today. I mean, it was that simple profit taking where people maybe, the big argument, where's the peak?
It does feel that way. And I think everyone, whenever someone has started to take a bit of profit here and there, we've just seen the shares continue to move high. And I think it's very difficult to fight the flow of commodity prices going higher.
The rand looking quite nice against the dollar. How much of that is a weaker dollar? How much of that is a stronger rand?
So a bit of both. I mean, clearly we've discussed the aspects that cause a weaker dollar, and we're likely to see those continue. But we've also seen nearly 160 billion rand of bond inflows year to date. That means that the rand is looking attractive, and you see it strengthen on the back of that, Stephen. And I think a lot of this has to do with the carry trade. The fact is that the US is cutting rates and will continue cutting rates over the next year, where the market still largely believes that we'll be on hold in South Africa, at least for the next 6 months.
So yeah, that does have a big impact. And then for multi-choice and Canal Plus, I think most of us are just sort of touching on the fantastic headlines about the super app. No one wants to sort of change their subscription just now because you want to see what's actually coming. But there's a lot of technical stuff still happening on the JSE.
Absolutely. So what Canal Plus needs is 90% of shareholders to agree to their 125 Rand offer. If they get that right, they'll be able to squeeze out the minorities and delist MultiChoice. They have said if they get it all right, they will list Canal Plus as a secondary listing on the JSE, which will be quite positive. But still a little way to go. The deadline for that is Friday, and we'll know by Monday whether they've got that 90% level.
It's interesting to watch all of that play out because at first it seemed regulatory issues might get in the way. The merger's taken quite a long time. I'm sure Canal Plus would have liked to have done it a little bit more quickly. But either way, it is now happening. Canal Plus have operational control, and we'll see how different that company becomes.
Absolutely.
Marco, thanks very much indeed. Marco Efstathiou is the lead specialist for investment and trading sales with ABSA. Well, a lot changing at MultiChoice. Very interested just to see how it all plays out. We'll be talking about smoking and tobacco and the tobacco industry in the next couple of moments. Also, sleep. I don't know about you, but no adult I know says they get enough sleep. And no child I've ever had has ever really had enough sleep. Good evening. You're at The Money Show. It's 6:30. Maki Malapo with the latest Eyewitness News. Maki, good evening. And Elvin Buertes is speaking.
That's right. Deputy Minister for International Relations and Cooperation, Stephen Grootes, says the weeks leading up to the highly anticipated G20 Leaders Summit will give key insights to the country's approach to critical minerals. South Africa will host global leaders in Johannesburg next month in what will be the close of the country's year-long G20 presidency. Member states are expected to deliberate over common priorities, including already contentious issues like trade policy, conflict, climate financing, and the high cost of capital. The G20 Critical Minerals Framework is also expected to take center stage as part of the African continent's agenda on value creation in the mining industry. Global demand for critical minerals is estimated at more than double by 2040, with hopes Africa's large reserves can help supercharge the continent's growth and development. Grootes joined delegates at a G20 dialogue hosted by the Southern African Liaison Office today.
On critical minerals, ladies and gentlemen, we do anticipate the medium-term budgetary policy statement in November will set the firm basis for what our anticipation is for the leadership summit that will convene 2 weeks thereafter. Because of market sensitivity, I will pause there as it relates to critical minerals. But safe to say, we have a particular dilemma on the African continent where we subscribe to Pan-Africanism, but not necessarily to, in our actions, live and becomes the embodiment of African solidarity.
In the mother city, organisers of the Greenpoint Market are planning to meet with officials from the city of Cape Town next week to discuss market operational issues. The traders argue that the city often cancels their trading dates at short notice. Their most recent trading day was on Sunday but was cancelled due to a soccer game taking place at the DHL Stadium. The P4 parking lot is allocated for the market and is unavailable when events take place at the stadium. The area is also a designated holding area under the city's events and disaster risk management plans. The city's Director for Economic Development and Investment, Lance Greiling, says during events, the venue must unfortunately remain available to respond to emergencies or unforeseen circumstances.
It also became unviable because events superseded. Unfortunately, what happens is that this is a very popular precinct, particularly for events. When there isn't an event, we certainly want to have the market, but when there is an event, this always happens.
Chairperson of the Greenpoint Market and President of the National Informal Traders Alliance, Rashida Miller, says many people depend on these markets to make a living.
We are disgruntled. We feel that we've had an unfair deal. We are going into a meeting on the 15th of October with the city. But other than that, we are extremely disappointed in what the city has given us as a raw deal after a 15-year wait.
And Joburg Water, in partnership with Wits University, will soon introduce a new borehole system in the city to supply water to informal settlements. The pilot project has identified 9 informal areas to benefit from the initiative. They include areas in Region G, such as Lenasia and Soweto. The utility says the joint effort is in response to recurrent water access woes experienced by communities across the city. The utility and Wits hosted community members at the Waterworks Informal Settlement today in the south of Johannesburg. Jabli Limbata has more.
The announcement of the borehole system that is yet to be built included a demonstration of how water would be extracted from the ground. However, Joburg Water explained that the project is still at infancy stage and that the scientists still need to determine whether supply can meet demand. In the Waterworks Informal Settlement, there are 2,600 residents identified as potential beneficiaries. Joburg Water Managing Director Nchabeni Mugwebo explains the next steps.
Next step will be, of course, looking at the quality of water. But in terms of that, already as part of this project, we are going to be installing a purification system.
Once that is done, he says there will be storage tanks installed, followed by placement of taps. Jabuli Limbata, Eyewitness News, Soweto.
A look at your weather. Partly cloudy Wednesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows between 10 and 16 degrees and peak at highs between 26 and 30 degrees. A partly cloudy start for Cape Town, becoming fine with fresh southerly winds at a low of 13 and a high of 21 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News. Deputy Minister for International Relations and Cooperation, Stephen Grootes, says the weeks leading up to the highly anticipated G20 Leaders Summit will give key insights to the country's approach to critical minerals.
EWN Traffic.
Well, in the city of Tshwane, we still have bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is in the Pretoria North area. Roadworks causing about a 20-minute delay on Paul Kruger between Eskiam Pahlele and Rachel Dupia. Claremont traffic remains sluggish. This is approaching Proclamation Hill. There's slow-moving traffic on Bremer Street between the R55 Kwacha Road and the R80. Still in Mountain View, heading towards Soshanguve. Traffic a bit sluggish, R80 northbound. This is Mabopane Highway between Eskiam Pahlele and the Hairpin Bend. Also in the Mother City, we're still dealing with that accident scene causing heavy delays. This is on the R300 northbound after Stellenbosch arterial, causing huge delays at this hour. The Huguenot Tunnel remains closed off to traffic, and there's still slow-moving traffic on the N1 inbound approaching the Koeberg interchange. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Beyond every boardroom is a story waiting to be written. A story of a business and its potential, of a community that thrives, a hospital that serves, and energy that powers millions of dreams. It's a story that only gets better with a partner that has the expertise and solutions to make it a reality. At ABSA CIB, we are invested in your story, and we invite you to write it with us, because your story matters. ABSA, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
One degree defines you as a master of business, the MBA. The life-changing Gibbs MBA empowers you to lead an organization or start your own business within the dynamic African context. Choose from 90 electives and 8 focus areas: general management, entrepreneurship, consulting, manufacturing, digital, humane leadership, healthcare, and climate leadership. For our next information session, go to gibbs.co.za/MBA. Gibbs is a Triple Crown internationally accredited business school in Ilovo, Sandton.
Beyond the roads they built, beyond the maps they drew, lies a place only the bold will know, where mountains rise like giants and rivers test your will. With a 2.4-liter turbo diesel and off-road capability, the GWM tank was born for this. Venture further in the Tank 300 from only $7,999 per month. Visit gwm.co.za for T's and C's and to book a test drive. GWM, go with more. Brought to you by GWM Finance, a division of Westbank and authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Running a business is tough. You need tools that just work. That's why more South African businesses are switching to Mac. At iStore, we make it easy with 4,000 rands in added value when you switch. That's 3 years extended warranty and remote tech support, leaving you to focus on everything else. Switch to Mac with iStore, your expert partner. T's and C's apply. Mac at iStore. Run smooth as business should.
WhatsApp Stephen
on 072
702
1702.
22 minutes to 7. I was asking you at the start of the program, how are you using social media? My focus group, tiny as it is, suggesting that in fact fewer of us, or we're putting stuff on social media a lot less often than we used to. How are you using social media?
Hi, good afternoon. Stephen, Nora here in Heidelberg. Social media, personally, for the past 2 years or so, I'm not posting anything anymore. I stopped posting. It's become a very toxic environment. And you just never know what is real and what is not. So I usually just catch up on news there or chat with some friends on Messenger. Other than that, no, Facebook and all of that, I no longer post anything. It's becoming too toxic.
Hi, Stephen. I'm using social media to post specifically for my business or some ice cream pot. And I found out when I was using only Instagram, although I gain enough followers on Instagram, I have very huge followers. But the moment I started posting on TikTok as well as Facebook, then you'll find that customers who come will say that I saw the post on Facebook, I saw a video on TikTok, and only to find that I was only concentrating on one social media, which was Instagram. But although I was still getting enough business from that, but I got a lot more business from Facebook and Instagram as well. From now on, I post on all three of them, including Threads.
Dr. Stephen, good evening, and good evening to the 702 lenders. Just a quick one. I'm not for the the policies that they've put up as well. I'm not a fan of them. I don't think I fully support them. But I also don't fully support the DA's plans as well, because if you've not, everybody who is against the ANC's policies, mainly a lot of them are against the ones that they call race-based laws, expropriation, things like NHI and so forth. They go after those low-lying fruits. They don't go after the things that actually need to be done. They come against things like the Economic Employment Act. So can people come up with different excuses and come up with solutions and not just point out at specific things they do not like because they think they are race-based?
Stephen, I'll tell you something. Out of the 33% unemployment figure that was published, out of that 33%, there's a percentage of people who are self-employed. And, because they're not formally employed, they're not counted as employed according to the statistics. And I think we need to really concentrate on that, because there are a lot of entrepreneurs, there are a lot of small businesses which require support in order to boost the economy. And the growth of the economy has been said that they will come up with ways to grow the economy, but yet they're not concentrating on what is important.
Yeah, very interesting point. Did someone call me Ntata there? How dare you? I say that with lots of love. Thank you. It's interesting to talk about growing the economy. I just think we need to do something. I think that's really where we're at. It can almost be the wrong thing, but not too damaging. But let's just do stuff. And in terms of social media, certainly no one I know is sort of saying, I'm loving it, I'm enjoying it, I really want to get more into it. I just don't get that. George has messaged us saying, I think people are reluctant to air their point of view because of the almost militant attitude of people these days. People find it difficult to debate issues with an open mind. It's a case of I'm right and you're wrong. Don't you dare challenge my point of view. I think that's absolutely true, and it's one of the sadnesses about our debate. And I mean that here and everywhere else, is that debate gets reduced to just a few sentences, and it usually boils down to I'm right and you're wrong. No one goes on social media to change their mind. And Chris, thank you for this. Stephen, please change your X handle to I nearly said Groot, but Chris, I think you mean I am Groot. You don't know what I'm talking about? Well, I'll give you a hint. I wish I was, but I'm not. A guardian of the galaxy.
EWN Sport.
My candidate was someone who would be Tsolekele. Good evening. You on social media as much as you used to be?
Absolutely not. I think one of the voice notes had said it's just like there's only one opinion and everything else just doesn't matter. But also there's a culture of trolling that has just gotten overboard. The only app I'm on actively is Instagram, and I just use that to post like random pictures. With TikTok and X, I'm just there to observe, and a lot of it I need for work to keep up to date with what also sports people are doing. But no pictures, no sharing of opinions, nothing. I'm just watching everybody else now.
Yeah, I think there are plenty of people like that. What's happening in the Bafana camp?
Well, Stephen, they've been dealt another injury setback after Ikram Reynams withdrew due to medical reasons, and he's now replaced by Evidence Mahoba. It's a second injury enforced change for South Africa ahead of their FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Zimbabwe and Rwanda, after Mtum Shabalala replaced Rile Mufokeng. For Mamelodi Sundowns defender Malibongwe Khoza, he's hoping to impress for the national team, having been called up for the first time.
I didn't think it was gonna come this early, but I was always working, always motivated to make sure that I work on my next one, make sure that I perform every game.
CAF President Patrice Motsepe is absolutely confident that the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations will go ahead in Morocco, despite ongoing anti-government protests in the country. Thousands of Moroccans have taken to the streets for 10 straight nights, calling for an end to corruption and a change of government. Morocco is scheduled to stage the Cup of Nations from December 21st to January 18.
And our position is very clear. Morocco is plan A, Morocco is plan B, Morocco is plan C. And we are absolutely confident that we will, as CAF, cooperate, work together with the government, the people, and all the citizens and all the people of Morocco to host the most successful CAF in the history of of this competition.
Aiden Markram believes that the Proteas now have a target on their back as they begin a new cycle of the World Test Championship as defending champions. South Africa play a 2-test series in Pakistan starting on Sunday, followed by 2 games in India in November as they bid to retain the trophy they won back in June.
I think it would send a little bit of a statement if we had 2 successful tours. That's how the scheduling's worked out, and as a team you want to be challenged and play the best in their conditions, and I feel that's what's ahead for us these next sort of 2-3 months, whatever it is. So exciting opportunity, like you mentioned, and something I'm pretty sure the guys will be quite excited about, the thought of trying to win in Asia.
And at the World Cup, England beat Bangladesh by 4 wickets to maintain their 100% start. Heather Knight top scored with 79 as they reached their victory target of 179 with 25 balls remaining. Tholakele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
To celebrate 25 years of helping you live the Premier life, FNB Premier is giving you a chance to win a 14-day European tour experience and other cool monthly prizes. Open any FNB Premier account from September to 31 December 2025. Switch your salary, swipe or tap a minimum of 2,000 Rand per month for 3 months straight. Spend and win with FNB Premier. FNB, help changes everything. TCs and competition rules apply. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and credit provider.
Corporates That Care promotes and encourages corporate leaders and all citizens to walk the talk for a better South Africa. Catch Corporates That Care this Wednesday at 10 to 9, featuring Investec SA. Their CEO, Kumesh Mudla, will be in conversation with Bongani Bingwa. Join us every Wednesday as we highlight the efforts of companies and brands dedicated to building our country. Corporates That Care is a Prime Media Cares initiative with 702 and Prime Media Outdoor. 702, let's walk the talk and make a difference together.
James, congrats on the babies.
Yeah, thanks. It's a wild ride.
You're a new dad, 2 babies, 0 sleep, and 1 car that apparently couldn't cope.
Yeah, the hatchback was my baby, but it just didn't have enough space for my 2 new babies.
And are you happy with the price when you sold to WeBuyCars?
Very. We've even got some extra cash to splurge on one of those fancy prams that you basically need a license for.
Good luck, James. WeBuyCars. Geared for family, geared for you.
The stage, the lights, the crowd, everything's perfect until suddenly someone slips on the dance floor. A speaker lands in the buffet. In an instant, your masterpiece is a mess. That's why Auto & General is there with events liability insurance. We handle the unexpected so you don't have to. Plan the party, wow the guests, leave the rest to us. For more information on events liability insurance, visit autogen.co.za. Auto & General, never not there. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
702 with Stephen Grootes.
Email him on stephen@702.co.za.
Just gone 12 minutes to 7. I found the dance the tobacco industry and government have been doing over the last decade quite fascinating. I mean, consistent claims that the tobacco industry, or parts of it rather, might have played a role in that decision by SARS to reduce its tobacco monitoring capacity. We saw during the hard lockdown, the ban on tobacco products didn't make sense to me then, doesn't make sense to me now. A suggestion now that, in fact, we're still not getting nearly as much money from the industry as we should be getting. It comes from someone who's an expert on this. Professor Corne van Velbeek is a professor in the School of Economics at UCT and a director of the research unit on the economics of excisable products. Corne, good evening. Thanks for your time. Why do you believe we're not getting the tax money we should be getting from tobacco?
Yes, good evening, Stephen, and it's lovely being on your show. So we've done a lot of research on the tobacco market over the past number of years, and we've been following the illicit market with great interest and also great concern. So at this point in time, unfortunately, it seems that at least 55 to 60% of cigarettes that are sold in South Africa are not taxed, which means that the fiscus is losing out. So each pack of cigarettes should have about 22.80 Rand of excise tax placed on them. And the government is losing out in the order of about 15 billion Rand of tax money every year at this point in time. This number was less before 2020, but it was already very high. But after 2020, that number has been roughly in the order of about 15 billion Rand. with very significant negative consequences both for the fiscus and for public health. So the consequences for the fiscus are obvious. The government is not getting the money. The consequences for public health are also very obvious because many people can now buy packs of cigarettes for 20, 25, 30 rand, which is very obviously not fully tax paid. Children are buying cigarettes at those very low prices. And what we find is that smoking prevalence has increased over the last number of years. So at the moment, our best estimate of smoking prevalence is a number that we got from the Global Adult Tobacco Survey of 2021. And at that point in time, 24% of adults were smoking cigarettes. I'm not talking about e-cigarettes and other products, I'm talking about cigarettes. And that number is substantially higher than what it was around about 2010, 2012, when most estimates indicate that the smoking prevalence was less than 20%. So there's been a substantial increase in smoking, and we are fully confident that that is because of the very large illicit market.
The argument from the formal tobacco industry is that if you tax cigarettes, you encourage the illicit industry. You don't agree with that?
So cigarettes have to come from somewhere. Cigarettes are manufactured. They are not hand-rolled in some other garage. They are made in factories. And most of the illicit cigarettes in South Africa are manufactured in factories in South Africa. A substantial proportion, but certainly not the majority of cigarettes, get imported through illicit means via Beitbridge, through runners over the Limpopo River, possibly through Durban as well from other countries. But the vast majority of cigarettes that are not taxed in South Africa are in fact produced within factories within South Africa. And that's a very significant cause of concern for us because it indicates that there is simply no good monitoring and good enforcement of the excise taxes that should be happening in South Africa.
So the tobacco industry's been trying to postpone or delay or stop the new tobacco bill. And when we're making policy, I mean, they absolutely have a right to be heard as much as I don't think one should smoke, but that's my own personal choice. But I mean, they have a right to be heard. Is there any evidence that the tobacco industry has tried to actually interfere with the enforcement of the law? I mean, it all got very tangled with SARS during the state capture era.
Absolutely. I think it's useful to think about the tobacco industry in South Africa as consisting basically of two parts. On the one hand, you've got the multinationals. This is British American Tobacco, Japan Tobacco International, and Philip Morris. And they have got overseas, and they are trying to create this impression that they are following the rules and that any things that they've done in the past that was negative and horrible, that's part of the past, and they want to present themselves as good corporate citizens, of course with their self-interest. On the other hand, we've got the local companies in South Africa that go under names of Amalgamated Tobacco, Best Tobacco, Carnalinks. In the past, we had Gold Leaf Tobacco. That's our name has changed recently. So there's a number of these small operators that tend to have a pretty low profile in the discussions with government. So when the government was discussing the tobacco bill, both the three multinationals made presentations to the portfolio committee trying to present themselves as credible and as serious and all the rest. But they, of course, were fighting for their own interests. The small companies, as far as I'm aware, none of them made any presentation. They're just working in the shadows, making lots of money, selling illicit cigarettes, and trying to not get the attention placed on them from the perspective of SARS and of other enforcement companies or enforcement agencies in South Africa.
Well, Professor, thank you so much. Professor Corné van Velbeek is the professor in the School of Economics and director of the research unit on the economics of excisable products at UCT.
Last orders coming through during your drive home or at midnight. Your customers check out whenever, wherever. With seamless payment integration and over 18 ways to get paid, PayFast by Network is built to keep up. And when it's time to grow, funding with Easy Advance helps you take the next step. Always open for late nights, for early starts, for you. Sign up today at payfast.io. PayFast has partnered with TimeBank to offer funding to your business.
In a world where a lot can change in 6 years, you can rest assured knowing that Hino's 6-year drivetrain warranty won't. All Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, protecting your investment all the way from pistons to gears. Built to keep your business moving, supporting uptime, growth and daily operations, because although a lot can change in 6 years, their warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Banking. Absa is a proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa 2025.
5 minutes to 7, a huge amount of research published today around sleep discovery vitality, looking at whether or not you get enough sleep. I made the point earlier. I honestly feel that I don't. I don't know anyone who has children, anyone who's working who would say they'd get enough sleep. And from our response on the WhatsApp voice note line, neither do you.
Hi, Stephen. Regarding your topic for are we sleeping enough? I'm one of those who I can say I don't sleep enough. Yeah, because of I am a student, I am employed, I'm a father, I'm a husband to someone, and I'm also a son to someone. So, all those things take time, and I'm studying 2 degrees at the moment, so I normally sleep late. I say I'll sleep around 2 a.m. and 5 o'clock I need to be up. So yeah, it's quite challenging, man.
Yeah, it does sound very challenging. Dinesh Govender is the CEO of Discovery Vitality, which unveiled this research today. Dinesh, good evening. That might be an extreme example, but I think we all kind of feel the stress. We just don't get enough sleep.
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me on air. Yes, it's actually quite a big health issue that we're trying to tackle here through the research.
I mean, I was amazed to see that the less sleep you have, so I'd always known there's a link between a lack of sleep and diabetes or heart disease or depression, but it also increases your chances of having an accident.
On the one hand, it's fascinating. On the other hand, it's shocking. So we've always spoken about sleep being a health issue, but there were 2 stats that really stood out for me in the research that sort of summed up why we have to do something about it. The first is, to your point and to the listeners' points, around the health risk. If you sleep badly, you've got a 22% higher chance of death. And that's quite shocking. And it's linked to heart disease, diabetes, depression, etc. But the point you're making is equally shocking, which is poor sleep is linked to 36% increase, higher risk of motor vehicle accidents. And this compounds with time. So you've got sleep debt that accumulates, which means if you sleep bad one night, you're worse on the roads. But if you sleep bad 2 or 3 nights in a row, your risk goes up quite exponentially. And our data has reflected this and sort of created a groundswell of excitement within Discovery to do something to solve this epidemic.
I mean, if you ask people why you're not getting enough sleep, they probably fall into 2 camps. The one is just simple time, right? There's too much to do in a day, as we heard a moment ago. The other, and this Tammy has messaged us on this saying, I've struggled to get proper sleep. I sleep at 2 p.m. and by midnight I'm awake and I struggle to get back to sleep until the next day. Insomnia is a major issue. People, even if they're in their bed, can't sleep.
So we've actually seen that. So Dr. Ronald Whelan, my counterpart, the CEO of Discovery Health, has talked about over 200 million rands in health claims that Discovery Health Medical Scheme plays out to chronic insomniacs, to treat insomnia, sort of obstructive sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome. So it is a growing concern for us. I think the starting point, and that's why it's important to sort of take a step back, because we hear the same thing when it comes to physical activity, and we hear the same thing when it comes to nutrition. And from a vitality perspective, we've used the data to sort of create the business case, and then we use our shared value model to then say, how do we change people's behavior? Because people say they don't have time for physical activity, they don't have the time to prepare nutritious meals, and now people are saying we don't have the time and there's too much stress to get good sleep. So we've been working on how do we take these problems, societal problems, and come up with ways in which to solve them for our members. And we believe that's possible with sleep. We're doing it through creating a vitality sleep score, a sleep rewards incentive system. But ultimately, to your point, even if you get we'll improve the lifestyle behavior of many people to get them to sleep better. I mean, you shouldn't be going to bed at 2 p.m. As a starting point, so getting the right behaviors in place, helping members develop better sleep habits, and then one of the outcomes being identifying people who have clinical issues like chronic insomnia, that we can then send them through the healthcare system for proper clinical treatment.
I mean, Dinesh, you've got 20 seconds, but if you, no matter how you feel, wake up, do some exercise before breakfast on the first morning, you will eat better during the day and you'll definitely need to sleep after that.
That's right. I mean, that's what we're trying to get people to do is eat well, exercise well, and just practice a few good habits. The one thing I'd give advice to people is the 1-7 rule. Go to bed within a 1-hour time window every night and sleep for 7 hours. And if you can do that, if you can build that habit, you'll be improving your health in a dramatic way.
Dinesh Govender, thanks very much indeed. CEO at Discovery Vitality. I would add to that, take your cell phone. You're looking at it right now. Open the window and gooi it as far as you can. It's 7 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Good evening, I'm Maki Molapo. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has dismissed suggestions that the disbandment of the political killings task team was a political and lawful decision. Mkhwanazi maintains that the decision to disband the task team by Police Minister Senzo Mchunu was wrong and should not have been influenced by political machinations. The KwaZulu-Natal top cop was giving evidence in the first day of the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee's hearings into allegations of police corruption. Babalo Ndenza reports.
Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi finally took to the hot seat after a lengthy delay due to issues around his sworn statement that was presented to the committee. Evidence leader Norman Arendse started his questioning by asking Mkhwanazi about his views on the political killings task team.
It will be argued that, not by me, I'm not here to present any arguments, but by some implicated, that this was a political initiative.
Mkhwanazi rejected the assertion, insisting that the matter can't be considered political.
I don't think the legislature cared as to which political party the member belongs to. So to put a statement and say it was a political decision, what if the minister is not a politician? So I don't think that argument will stand.
Mkhwanazi says the task team should be kept alive as the country approaches another election next year. Babalo Ndenza, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation Alvin Boertes says he believes the US will continue to participate in the current G20 meetings despite concerns about their watered-down contributions. Boertes joined delegates at a G20 dialogue hosted by the Southern African Liaison Office today. This is part of ongoing talks about how Africa can leverage on South Africa's G20 presidency to address the continent's complex issues. Matters of governance, slow economic growth, rising poverty and runaway unemployment are among key issues on the table. Nogukanya Mtambo has more.
America's participation in this year's installment has been questioned after some key White House officials snubbed gatherings in South Africa. This includes U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who skipped the first G20 foreign ministers meeting in Joburg in March over a policy spat with Pretoria. U.S. President Donald Trump is also unlikely to make an appearance at the November Leaders Summit in Joburg. Deputy Minister for International Relations and Cooperation Alvin Boertes says he's upbeat about Trump's commitment to send his deputy J.D. Vance instead to the all-important summit next month.
The presence, obviously, of the vice president will obviously cement the role that the G20 plays.
But managing director at the Open Society Foundation, Brian Gahoro, says the efficiency of the policy agenda at the G20 shouldn't depend on U.S. participation.
It is whether or not African peoples show up.
The U.S. is next in line for the G20 presidency. Nogukanya Mtambo, Eyewitness News.
Former State President Kgalema Motlanthe says broad-based black economic empowerment as a policy is unproblematic. However, it has been tarnished by elites who have abused it. Motlanthe has come out in support of the policy as it faces domestic and international pressure to be scrapped. The former president has been participating at the Frank Dialogue event discussing the legacy and future of BBBEE. Tabiso Goba has more.
Former Statistician General Badili Huhla made a passionate argument
backed by data that racial inequalities in the country have been further entrenched since the turn of democracy.
And the question is, what is BEE doing? I'm putting a mega challenge, not small inputs into BEE 111. No, what is the mega challenge? What is the impact we want to see? What society do we want to see? And when we ask those questions, then the BEE frame will change.
Former State President Kgalema Motlanthe says transformation policies like Triple BEE have moved the needle a bit. However, much more needs to be done to close the racial economic gaps.
The problem, however, is not the principle of Triple BEE. It is the practice. The repeated selection of a small elite, the so-called usual suspects, has left the policy vulnerable to attack.
A representative from the Afrikaans movement Solidarity says Triple BEE has not worked and must be replaced with a better affirmative action policy. Thabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
Johannesburg City Power has denied claims that it's attempting to block the Hawks' ongoing investigation into suspected irregular contracts at the utility. This comes after the utility lodged an urgent application in the Gauteng High Court seeking to have a recent search and seizure operation at its premises declared unlawful. City Power argues the warrant used to conduct the operation was vague and therefore invalid. 2 weeks ago, the Hawks raided the utility's headquarters as part of a probe into payments made for electricity transformers that were allegedly never delivered. City Power spokesperson Isaac Mangena.
We're not against the Hawks investigating anything that they think is wrongdoing within City Power. In fact, we encourage them to do so. So for us, it's basically to ensure that everything that the Hawks are trying to do, they do it by the book, by principle, and ensure that they basically get to the bottom of it because it started in 2024.
And the Cape Winelands District Municipality is commemorating World Fire Safety Day today by urging landowners to prepare for the upcoming fire season. World Fire Safety Day is a global initiative to advocate for stronger fire prevention and protection measures, raising awareness and sharing resources. Landowners who live close to natural areas in the Cape Winelands District Municipality are urged to create fire breaks and clear dry vegetation near orchards and buildings. With the fire season fast approaching, Cape Winelands Mayor Elna van Schlitt says it's not too late to prepare.
Landowners and homeowners, especially those living close to natural areas, still have time to clear the spaces around their homes. Owners of vacant land should ensure that alien vegetation is removed, that clearing is done correctly, and that all waste is properly disposed of.
Gold's trading at $3,979.81 an ounce. The rand's at 17.18 to the dollar, at 23.18 to the pound, at 20.07 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $65.16 a barrel.
City of Tshwane, Pretoria North roadwork still causing about a 20-minute delay on Paul Kruger. This is between Eskiam Pahlele and Rachel de Beer. Also traveling through Mountain View, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic. This is on the R80 northbound between Eskiam Pahlele and the Hip and Bend. If you are heading into Leratong, Rudeport area, there's slow-moving traffic on Randfontein Road between Collet and Adcock, while in the Mother City, the Huguenot Tunnel remains closed off to traffic, and there's still slow-moving traffic. This is on the N1 outbound approaching Sable Road.
A look at your weather. Partly cloudy skies in store for Gauteng tomorrow with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Joburg will drop to overnight lows of 15 degrees and peak at highs of 26. Pretoria is at 16 and 30. Vereeniging is at 10 and 27. A partly cloudy start for the Mother City, becoming fine with fresh southerly winds at a low of 13 and a high of 21 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News this hour. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has dismissed suggestions that the disbandment of the political killings task team was a political and lawful decision.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Banking. Absa is a proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa 2025. 9 minutes after 7, good evening. A fascinating response to the question tonight around how you're using social media. A little bit of a mixed picture emerging, but still quite a few people saying they're just moving away from it. I do think there's a what's that phrase that everyone talks about in advertising and artificial intelligence? Authenticity. And social media, I think, sort of breeds inauthenticity. What I suppose you could call IA. Really is the issue that you're battling with, I think, with social media and with artificial intelligence at the moment. We will talk, and we'll have our sort of green feature in just a moment, but we'll talk about government's incentivization of solar power. Do you remember that? The tax incentive and all of that. Now, we'll talk about that with Jonty Sachs in just a moment. Also, Dr. Rotendo Hundwingwi, he's already here actually preparing to speak to you in a few moments about what's happening across our continent. Then don't forget from 7:30 how to make money out of the boom and how to make it work for you. Warren Ingram, of course, the person to talk to about that. Looking forward to that conversation because so much, of course, going on there. Keeping a very close eye on the gold price tonight as well. Not quite at $4,000 an ounce yet, but it is getting closer and closer. Good to hear from you tonight on 011 883 0702 021 446 0567 and 072 702 1702.
WhatsApp Stephen
on 072
702
1702.
How to get more sleep, how to get more Z's. Isn't that really one of the big questions of our time?
Hello, good evening, Stephen. My name's Estelle. I'm in Pinelands. I'm 74 years old. I'm a pensioner. And you would think we have no worries, so we should be able to sleep properly. No, we don't. We have money issues, health issues. So if I get 3 nights a week with 4 hours in a row, I consider myself very, very lucky. Money is tough. There's obviously very little coming in and very little available. But yeah, I would love 3, 4, 5 nights a week of 7 hours. It just doesn't happen. I feel for all those who don't sleep. I'm taking herbal tabs. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It's, I think, an anxiety thing, worrying about the future, and a tough one. Bye-bye.
Sure. Wow. I would find that very difficult to have such little sleep. But, maybe that's coming my way. Who knows? 11 after 7.
702. Stephen is on The Money Show.
6 to 8 p.m.
You may remember during the height of load shedding how much interest there was in solar and renewable energy, and government's response to it was to create a tax incentive that would encourage or incentivize solar power. Jonty Sachs is a partner at Gel Tech, joins us now. Jonty, good evening. I remember some of those moments so well. One of the stories of the budget that year, the whole point was to finally get investment going in the solar sector. Looking back a few years later, did it work?
Oh, Stephen, I think it's worked unbelievably well. And the private sector has boosted the growth of solar, rooftop solar, commercial solar is still flourishing year on year over the last 5 years. So I think the incentive is doing a stellar job, and long may it last.
How much of it was the incentive and how much of it was other factors, and particularly stage 6 load shedding? If you wanted to run a business, you basically had to get solar. The other was the cost. Everyone could see power prices were going up and we're going to keep going up. Wouldn't this investment have happened anyway?
Well, listen, certainly load shedding reduced the sales cycle of solar. So, at the peak of load shedding, CFOs and CEOs needed to make decisions really rapidly because they were experiencing, half a day without electricity. So yes, those decisions were made quickly. Without load shedding, would it still happen? Certainly. The cost of electricity is skyrocketing. If the incentive wasn't around, would it happen anyway? Possibly, but not on the scale that we've seen. I think the incentive encourages corporates, individuals to take up solar, most likely in situations where they wouldn't have. The government did do a survey recently where a large portion of participants indicated that had it not been for the incentive, they wouldn't have considered solar. The beauty of an incentive is that it encourages the private sector to do what government hasn't done or has failed to do. And we all know how well government, or should I say the private sector, can execute better, quicker than government. And that's what tax incentives have done. And, so notwithstanding the fact that it's still continuing, I think had it not been for the incentive, the market wouldn't be where it is today.
Did it also maybe work in another way, is that it wasn't just the finances, it basically was a signal from government and essentially saying to people, we are really serious about this?
Well, it was I think a lifeline that government used to reach out to the private sector to help with load shedding. And if I could explain it this way around, is the Section 12B incentive for many years was 100% tax deduction, and government increased it to 125%, so that the private sector could wake up to this dripping roast of a tax incentive to help them get out of the trouble that they got themselves into. So certainly.
What's the sort of outlook for the incentive? I mean, it stays. Is there scope for a bigger incentive nowadays, do you think? I mean, Eskom still has some problems.
I think this incentive will be around for many years to come. I think there's a lot of positive talk around the fact that load shedding isn't around, but in many areas of the country there is still load reduction. The infrastructure is troublesome, and the biggest issue that government has is the lack of transmission lines. There's many billions of rands of transmission lines needed to connect all these major green solar farms, and in the interim, we need an alternative. So that alternative is rooftop solar, ground-mounted solar, and the incentive allows for that. So, our view is for the next 3 to 5 years, the incentive will stick around, but who knows? It's up to the government to decide.
Yeah, I mean, a lot's still going to happen. I suppose there are other questions around the lessons we can learn from this incentive. If other problems crop up, I don't know, around cars or water or something, clearly there is a role for an incentive in policy. It does actually work in some way.
It absolutely works. And to the point I raised earlier, is the incentives encourage the private sector to fill the hole, fill the gap. And what we've seen, one of the reasons why our economy is still so strong is because we've got a resilient private sector, a private sector that is adaptable, malleable, despite government interventions and red tapes and bureaucracy and BE laws, we've got a resilient private sector. So I think that, these type of incentives is really necessary, whether it be solar or batteries or, whatever else the economy needs.
John T. Sachs, thanks very much indeed. Partner at Gel Tech. Really do appreciate the time. 17 minutes now after 7.
Your office is more than just a place to work. It's a reflection of your success. At Desk and Chair, we help you elevate your workspace with locally manufactured desks and a wide range of chairs to suit your style and budget. Our expert consultants are with you every step of the way, from planning to delivery and assembly. Visit our showroom in Midrand or shop online at deskandchair.co.za. Desk and Chair. Think, feel, work better.
Looking for a smarter way to move money internationally? Discover Future Forex, your multi-award-winning one-stop shop for international transfers. Enjoy white glove service, expert compliance support, and savings of up to 50% compared to banks. With industry-leading rates and seamless transfers, Future Forex is one of South Africa's highest-rated foreign exchange providers. Visit futureforex.co.za. Future Forex, your all-in-one partner for sending money to and from South Africa. Future Forex is an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
Hey besties, welcome to my kitchen tour, or should I say my new walk-in wardrobe. Over here we have the pantry, now home to my jeans and shirts, all color-coded. Oh, and the air fryer, literally the perfect place for my makeup brushes. And who would have thought, the oven is the place to store my handbags.
Who needs a kitchen? Simply spend 200 Rand or more and you could win Simply Asia for a year. T's and C's apply. Simply Asia, connecting the Thai way.
CIRA is reintroducing printed ink certificates, now available as a paid optional service. You can now request your printed certificate online and collect it at your nearest CIRA branch. This service is in response to industry requests. Remember, your digital certificate remains valid and you can view it online. For more information, please contact 086-1333-850 or info@sira.co.za.
For those 2 a.m. checkouts or the late night shifts, for the last minute orders, and the beginning of the month rush, for the 9 to 5 that becomes a 5 to 9. You don't clock out, and neither should your payments. Pay Fast by Network, always open for the dreamers, the doers, for you. From e-commerce to in-store payments and business funding, we have you covered. Sign up today at payfast.io.
702. Stephen is on X
at Stephen Grootes.
One or two queries coming through on the WhatsApp line and other places asking about the gold price. And hasn't it already gone over $4,000? And for a moment, I thought that maybe it had. The price I'm looking at is the spot price. The gold futures have gone over $4,000 in the last few hours to around $4,009. Basically, I'm doing what most people do in these moments. I'm watching Reuters. And the figure that I have, which has been corroborated by one or two others, is $3,982 at the moment. That's where I am. I realize that there are lots of different places and lots of different gold prices in the world, but that's the price that I'll be watching. So gold futures, yes, over $4,000. The actual sort of, in inverted commas, official spot price of gold, not yet, but we're not far off now, are we? 21 minutes after 7.
The Money Show, Africa Business Focus.
Talking of gold, Dr. Rutendo Ndingwi, good evening. Thanks for coming in.
Your word is gold, Stephen. Your word is gold.
The London Stock Exchange, they're looking for more listings from Africa. That's interesting, eh?
It is, Stephen. So just to give you some context, the London Stock Exchange, over the last 30 years, obviously a lot of African countries have been investing there. Currently, you probably have about 110 African countries with a total market capitalization value of about $223 billion US. And in the last decade alone, about $40 billion US has been raised by these African companies on the London Stock Exchange. So for both African economies and the UK economies, it's quite significant. What has driven the drive for them to attract and sort of lower the entry barriers with regards to African companies investing on the London Stock Exchange, Stephen, is the geopolitics and the geoeconomics have obviously inflation as well playing, has also contributed to the economy in the UK battling a bit. So they're trying to attract investment through IPOs and listing. I think it's estimated that it's been the lowest level of IPOs in the last 30 years. I think they're currently recording about $216 million US. So there's a lot of incentive that has been put in place through a vehicle that they call the Primary Market Effectiveness Review. And really the objective is to create and incentivize African companies to come invest in the London Stock Exchange. The quid pro quo, Stephen, is that on one side, African countries having a base in the UK allows them obviously to have access to capital. They're allowed to do dual listing, so they can still be listed in the African country and also capitalize on that. And that's a sort of a soft component in terms of the advantage of that. But for African companies wanting to go global, Stephen, UK is always quite strategic, so it's a positive note and a great opportunity, Stephen.
And Acumen, they're raising money. They want to electrify 17 countries in Africa.
They want to electrify 17 countries through solar power. The irony of it all is Acumen is actually a UK company. So we know the USA, Uncle Sam company. It's an investment company. It's been there for a number of years. We know with the US, their stance with regards to renewable energy and clean energy is obviously...
They used to like it, now they don't.
They used to like it, now they don't. But Acumen has taken a stance with regards to investing $246 million US in terms of off-the-grid solar solutions. They've made quite some good track record within Nigeria and Kenya, and they've got models that are tried and tested there, Stephen. They've partnered up with Green Climate, British International, and the IFC. And really, if you know, with the Mission 300, and this is a great initiative happening on the African continent, we know that about 600 million people in Africa still don't have access to electricity. And Mission 300 is to reach 300 people by 2030 and give them access to electricity. So it's a great initiative. It's coming out of the US, out of all places, but it's going to make a positive impact on the economies and people's lives, which is a great story to tell, Stephen.
And then Barrick are going to sell that mine in Cote d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast. It's called Tongon. They're getting $300 million for it.
$300 million of good US dollar cash. Barrick Mine, a Canadian entity, has been around for a long time. They're trying to strengthen their balance sheet, and by obviously making the sale and giving it to the local Ivorian Coast entity. I think it's called Atlantic. On one extent, the actual quantum of value that Tongan contributes to the Ivory Coast is $2 billion US, Stephen, per annum. So that's quite big in terms of jobs, in terms of the value chain entirety. But the reason they want to do it on their side is they want to strengthen their balance sheet. The upside for the Ivorian economy, Stephen, is that at the end of the day, they're able to get ownership of an ongoing, and it's a gold mine. And the gold price at the moment is not on a negative. I mean, you've just been highlighting that. And I think it's at about 3,009, at the time of the report. But either way, it's a good story to tell, Stephen, in terms of both for Barrick, the Barrick mine, as well as for the Ivorian government and economy.
And then in Malawi, the government stopped operations at the Salima Sugar Company. What happened here?
Yeah, so obviously they've just had a new president, so maybe maybe the lesson is that not everything is sweet with the new leadership.
Used to like sugar, now they don't.
They used to like sugar, now they don't. It's actually unexplained, Stephen, because I mean the Malawi, as you know, is a small economy, $11 billion GDP. Year-on-year growth from a GDP perspective is 1.8%. Yeah. Well, I mustn't say that, because in South Africa ours is not great as well. And GDP per capita is $500 million US, $500 US per capita. There was a directive that came from government, and it's a state-owned enterprise. They produce about 22,000 tons of sugar per annum, and the revenues are like $1.4 million US. In the bigger scheme of things, that's not a lot, but for the Malawian economy, it's quite a lot. And on top of it, they employ hundreds of people, and they look after thousands of outgrowers. So there was a directive that just came and said stop producing. It was shut down. There's no political or economic reason given for it. So it's a bit of a concern. But otherwise, Malawi is trying to reduce the import of sugar and through export. And obviously, it'll be interesting to see how this story pans out, Stephen.
Yeah, there'll be something there. And then Tunisia, they've got a biotech that's turning blue crab waste into what?
Be careful on the play of words. So the blue crab apparently produces about 5,000 tons of waste per year. And
that's more than one blue crab.
That's more than one, and that's a lot of crabs. Sorry, I just had to tell you that I was tempted for a long time to say that. But there are two dangers that it poses. One, it impacts the ecosystem, which is from a coral perspective, and two, it eats a lot of the nets for the fishermen. So the upside is that a biotech has invested in technology that allows them to produce a product, a pharmaceutical grade product called chitosan, which is a biodegradable component that can be used in medicine, in agriculture, and plastics. The government of Tunisia is supporting these guys. And the positive thing is that it's a technology solution that's come up from Africa. It's created by Africa. Tunisia gets about $24 million US per year in terms of VC tech funding, which amounts to about, makes it 11th of the continent. But ultimately, it's a great solution. Technology, ecology, and blue crabs waste, all contributing to Africa's positive growth and making the right impact, Stephen.
Put that into an AI image engine and see what you get. Dr. Rotendo Windengwi, thanks very much indeed. Founding Director, Tribe Africa Advisory, author of the book Rumble in the Jungle Reloaded. 28 minutes after 7.
Coming up,
The Aubrey Masango Show
on 702
and Cape Talk.
Aubrey, Rotendo gives us sweets every time he comes. He's trying to give you one. There we are.
He's a sweet
it's for
man.
your throats. Oh, I'm going to have to separate the two of you up here. We're going to have to do this in different studios every
man. I love his hats too.
You have the same taste in hats.
Touche.
People don't know that when we get to the age that we're at, gentlemen, our heads get cold.
It gets cold, Stephen.
People don't know about that. You got hair.
I've got hair. I celebrate the hair while I have it. That's all I have to tell you.
Let me tell you what's happening in the
Apart
show
from hair loss,
tonight.
yes.
Lucinda Hinksman, head of employment at Labour at CMS, talks to us about the Constitutional Court ruling that declared that fathers are now entitled to the same parental leave benefits as mothers.
I had a female colleague suggest to me that equal work for equal pay. Now, where's your work?
Excellent. And then straight after that, in the first half of the second hour, I'm going to be speaking to Mngwake Chezile. He's the founder of Men Mandate, an organization that raises and empowers men to take their position in society. This is a Now Man Talk feature, and we're going to be talking precisely about the first hour's conversation and how it actually impacts real societies. And then Mboheng Jack Rapela, author of My Advice to You, is a practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. It will be joining us to talk about entrepreneurship and resilience is the new currency, he says, thriving in business beyond burnout. And then in the third hour of the show, I'm going to be speaking to Donnell Muchinguri, who is from Donnell Muchinguri Partnerships. And we're talking about AI and robotics as a main thrust for education. And then, of course, the final hour of the show is an open line, as always. That's the show tonight. Thanks very much, Steve.
Aubrey, thanks very much indeed. Coming up from 8 o'clock in a moment, Warren Ingram, where to put your money when the market is booming at 7:30. Time for the latest Eyewitness News. Marky, good evening.
Thanks, Stephen. Good evening. Deputy Minister for International Relations and Cooperation, Alvin Buertes, says the weeks leading up to the highly anticipated G20 Leaders Summit will give key insights into the country's approach to critical minerals. South Africa will host global leaders in Joburg next month in what will be the close of the country's year-long G20 presidency. Member states are expected to deliberate over common priorities, including already contentious issues like trade policy, conflict, climate finance, and the high cost of capital. The G20 Critical Minerals Framework is also expected to take center stage as part of the African continent's agenda on value creation in the mining industry. Global demand for critical minerals is estimated at more than double by 2040, with hopes Africa's largest reserves can help supercharge the continent's growth and development. Buertes joined delegates at a G20 dialogue hosted by the Southern African Liaison Office today.
On critical minerals, ladies and gentlemen, we do anticipate the medium-term budgetary policy statement in November will set the firm basis for what our anticipation is for the leadership summit that will convene 2 weeks thereafter. Because of market sensitivity, I will pause there as it relates to critical minerals. But safe to say, we have a particular dilemma on the African continent where we subscribe to Pan-Africanism, but not necessarily to, in our actions, live and becomes the embodiment of African solidarity.
Head of the Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment Commission, Tsidiso Matona, says BEE is on a faltering trajectory. However, it should not be abandoned altogether. Matona says since the Act was passed into law in 2003, it has consistently been amended and improved to make it more effective. Matona has been speaking at the BEE Frank Dialogue event in Sandton today. As head of the commission, Matona says BEE compliance has improved over the years. However, there are still some undesirable practices that continue to persist.
Every so often come across fake certificates, practices fronting that seek to circumvent the objectives of the legislation. So we do need to clean up this instrument. We do need to strengthen its governance anchor, ethical foundation. So we are at a turning point, definitely. We cannot carry on this faltering trajectory. The legislation needs to evolve.
The Palestine Solidarity Campaign joined hundreds of COSATU supporters who marched through the Cape Town CBD today to mark International Day for Decent Work. The marchers are calling for fair wages, job security and the protection of workers' rights as part of a nationwide campaign today. The Palestine Solidarity Campaign says Palestinians in war-ravaged Gaza share a plight with jobless South Africans. Carlo Peterson has more.
Palestine Solidarity Campaign organizer Yusuf Chikta says the struggles of the Palestinian people are intertwined with the people of South Africa.
We had a saying in South Africa, our land, our labor and our liberty. The Palestinians are deprived of all that still, and to some extent we are also deprived.
Chikta says an injury to one is an injury to all.
Return the land to the Palestinians, return the land to South Africans, return the productive sources to the people, to the workers.
The march ended with COSATU handing memorandums to the provincial and national government, along with the city of Cape Town. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
A look at your weather. A partly cloudy Wednesday in store for Gauteng tomorrow with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. Temperatures will drop to overnight lows between 10 and 16 degrees and peak at highs between 26 and 30 degrees. A partly cloudy start for Cape Town, becoming fine with fresh southerly winds at a low of 13 and a high of 21 degrees. The top story in Eyewitness News. Deputy Minister for International Relations and Cooperation, Alvin Boertes, says the weeks leading up to the highly anticipated G20 Leaders Summit will give key insights into the country's approach to critical minerals.
This is the story of our Nando's Flame Grilled Chicken, marinated for 24 hours in our unique peri-peri recipe. Kissed by fire, full of flavor, perfectly grilled. And like any story, this story of our full peri-peri chicken has two sides. Yours to choose, yours to share. Enjoy the Nando's full and two sharing meal. That's our full chicken and two sharing sides of your choice for only 277 Rand.
Ready to lead the future of business? At Wits Business School, leaders don't just adapt, they define what comes next. Choose from a wide range of postgraduate programs designed to develop your leadership and strategic thinking skills. Whether you're looking to deepen your expertise or broaden your horizons, there's a qualification for you. At Wits Business School, ambition becomes leadership. Visit wbs.ac.za to find the program that's right for you. That's wbs.ac.za.
Medical care, like music, needs continuity. A steady rhythm and pattern. Patients attended to on time. Medication taken as prescribed. Cut the rhythm and it falls apart. Right now, global funding cuts are restricting access to healthcare. With your support, Doctors Without Borders can continue to provide medical care to communities worldwide. Because medicine, like music, only works when uninterrupted. Doctors Without Borders. We go there.
Small businesses are anything but small.
They're the backbone of our communities, the dreamers, the doers,
the ones who keep Mzansi moving forward.
That's why 702 and Capitec Business Banking are putting them
in the spotlight.
Every Thursday between 6 and 8 p.m. Catch Small Business Focus with Capitec,
where we showcase the hustle, heart,
and the secrets to thriving in today's economy. Your vision matters, and with Capitec, you're never building it alone.
Small Business Focus with Capitec,
the business bank for everyone. Thursdays between 6 and 8 p.m.
on 702.
Capitec Bank is an authorized FSP.
46669.
The Money Show.
Personal Finance with Warren Ingram.
The Personal Finance feature is brought to you by Sanlam Corporate. They take employee benefits personally because when you care, everyone benefits. Well, don't forget, Warren Ingram is a certified financial planner at Galileo Capital. It's 23 minutes now to 8 during the time. Over the course of the last few months, pretty much every time I've spoken to you, there's been a new record high in the US or for the JSE. I'm talking about the indices, the AI bubble, everything that is sort of working together. Tonight, Warren, we're talking about how to invest during a bubble. And I just need to start with this question. When you actually have, bubble's a big word, but when you have shares moving up like this, does it really matter where you invest? Isn't everything going up? Aren't all the ships going up at the same time?
If only that were true, Stephen. I think if you look at the JSE as an example, we've got our market is performing very well, but when you break it down, it's a handful of mining shares and then the NASPAS process, a combination, but pretty much everything else is doing okay. It's probably, the JSE is probably having a fairly normal year. But when you look at the index tells you that it's having a phenomenal year. So there is a lot going on inside the JSE, and I think exactly the same picture is unfolding in America, where you've got those tech shares that are just driving everything through the roof. But there are a bunch of other companies that are doing okay, probably a lot more expensive as an average than South Africa, but still, two separate markets. I think I saw an analyst talk about the bifurcation of the market, and I guess you have to say that phrase very carefully on radio. But certainly, it looks to me like two different parts of the market performing differently throughout this year, and probably will carry on like that for a while.
Okay, some strategies to consider. Where do you sort of start? What do you need to work out? And I imagine first you need to know what you're actually going to do. You need some clarity in your own mind.
Yeah, I think I know you love the phrase, in the investment journey or the financial freedom journey. So just to really double down for you, I think when you're going in a direction, you need to know where you're going, and it sounds like such an obvious thing to say, but a lot of the time when you talk to people about investing, they'll invest opportunistically. They'll see an opportunity in maybe a falling price. I keep thinking about Steinhoff, getting lots of phone calls once the share price had halved, and people saying, "Gee, isn't this an opportunity?" And equally now, when you look at the tech shares or maybe the cryptos again, people going, "Well, hang on, these things have gone up a lot. Shouldn't I buy in so that I don't miss out?" And all of those are kind of questions that you should ask second. The first question is, what am I doing with my strategy? Where am I going with my money? How do I want to invest? And then have that plan, and then make decisions following that plan. And I think that it's fair to say with the world of investing, sometimes like a fairly bad plan that's well executed is way better than no plan at all, where you just sort of aimlessly try and take advantage of opportunities, because you end up not making any good decisions, and every now and then you're lucky. And what happens with that little bit of luck is it fools you into thinking that you've got this, that you've got some kind of a skill, and really all you've done is you've flipped the coin, you've landed on heads, and now you feel that you've got this. So I would say we don't know. You and I and no one else will know exactly how these market conditions unfold over the next decade, and we can't wait for a decade to look back and go, "Oh, gee, that's what we should have done." We have to make decisions now, and to me, it starts with just set a plan. Just set a course for yourself, which includes, well, how much money do I actually want in shares? How much do I want in bonds and property? How much am I going to have overseas and in South Africa? And once you've made that decision, and that should be based on your age and your tolerance for risk and all of those things. But once you've got that kind of a plan, then you can start to say, well, if I've got too much in shares, and I think the market's expensive, maybe I should sell down my shares a little to get back in line with my plan. So the starting point is have a plan, and even if it's not the best plan in the world, stick to the plan. That's the thing that will get you through whatever's coming, because none of us actually have a clue what's coming.
Yeah, well, isn't that the thing? Okay, so if we, put our hands over our eyes and sort of, cast and look at the horizon, you can kind of see a big wave, right? And it really does sort of feel like that. That it might crash, but isn't there, you can ride a wave in a situation like this? How would you do that?
You can, and in fact, fund managers will talk about momentum investing, and that's exactly what it is. You take advantage of building momentum where more and more money chases a particular investment theme. And for a while, it becomes almost a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy where the demand and the speculation around a sector or a share builds its own power and its own force. And that drives the price higher and higher. And very often, those prices can go much higher than you think, and also that momentum can last for a lot longer than you think. And so, I would say, betting against the wave altogether, or betting against that momentum would not be the best idea you've got. You shouldn't just look at the tech sector in America and say, okay, well, all tech is expensive. I'm going to go and buy wood manufacturing furniture, or wood furniture manufacturing, whatever it is, the thing most different to tech, because I think making an all or nothing bet against a very big wave, I think is very dangerous. So one, you can ride that wave for a time, and maybe one of the strategies that you follow is, if you've got a big allocation to a sector that's doing very well, don't be scared. Every time it does well, let's say it goes up by 50%, that you take half of that money off the table and you allocate it elsewhere. And if it goes up again, the remaining money, you keep taking profits, because at least in that way you are riding the wave, but equally doing so responsibly and allocating money elsewhere. For me, that would be one sensible way of riding a wave. But what I wouldn't do, and I'd be really strong on this, is don't take everything that you've got from all all the other parts of your investment portfolio and allocate it to the wave. Because if we talk about big wave surfing, and you've ever watched a video of it, when you get it wrong, it's catastrophic. And certainly you don't want to do that.
So, I mean, there are things that you can do that are just wrong. And that's really where you put your money in the wrong place. So then you might be tempted to say, well, actually, I'm not going to do very much. I'm not a big believer in AI, or, it reminds me of the kind of .com bust. I've watched The Big Short too many times. I mean, what happens if you opt out?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting strategy. A lot of people don't have a tolerance for losing money. It causes them sleepless nights. They stress about it. They become obsessed with any time they see their investments go down. And so when you read what's going on in the world right now, and let's face it, I mean, if this was a British sitcom, it would be called Men Behaving Badly, and that's what's going on all around the world. Is we just see politicians behaving terribly everywhere, and certainly investors, chasing limited number of shares that and delivering, yes, very good returns, but we all know the valuations are high and getting higher. And so for people who are prone to stress and worry, it's very tempting just to say, I'm going to cash out. I'm going to sell all my shares. This thing can only end badly, and I'm going to store my money in cash, maybe in some gold, although I'm not so sure that that's not in a bubble of its own. And I'm going to wait for everything to kind of sort itself out. I'm going to wait for the markets to fall, and then I'll consider investing again. Now, it might feel like a good call, but the thing here is that the markets could carry on doing this for the next 2 or 3 years, especially if we see interest rates coming down in the US and maybe even in South Africa. And falling interest rates give huge impetus to stock markets. And so if you're sitting in cash, what you've locked in is the certainty that the buying power of your money is eroding every single day, because inflation eats the value of your money. Your interest rates never keep pace with the inflation rate. So yes, you can opt out. I don't think it's a good call, because you're kind of, this time around, you're not betting on heads, you're betting on tails. And if it lands on heads again, then you really are losing out. But it is one strategy that some people follow. And certainly someone like Nassim Taleb, who wrote Black Swan, this was more his philosophy. He would sit in cash for a long period of time and then try to take advantage of a big opportunity. And unfortunately, it didn't work for him. His investment company didn't do so well. And I guess he is a fairly bright man. So the likelihood of making good money out of this over a long period of time, I think, is extremely small.
Okay, so basically, if you keep it in cash, you're going to lose out. I mean, that's really the long and the short of it. You actually have to get involved, really.
You do. And I think you can do this in a sensible way. I think you can do it without, trying to be a forecasting genius, which we know is impossible, and certainly not trying to do all the research where you're expected to become a global fund management expert on every single sector around the world. I think what you can do is you can use some common sense. So, for example, we know that the American market, which you can look at as the S&P 500, has done incredibly well. And yes, it is very expensive. And somewhere along the line, very expensive shares do fall over. And I'm not saying the companies go to zero, or the businesses become bad, but just sometimes their prices become so high that they do have no other choice but then to go down. If that is the case, then perhaps you don't want all of your money in the American market. So what you do is you take some of the money that you've got in the US and you allocate it around the rest of the world. And what's interesting about doing something like that is there are parts of the world that haven't done as well. If we look at emerging markets, they really haven't performed, very well over the last decade at all. And their valuations are low, so their prices are incredibly low. And sure, there are some emerging markets that deserve to be cheap because their economies are bad, their politics are bad, their disclosures are bad, etc. But equally, there are some emerging markets that are very good, with very good demographics and a lot to be said for their prospects. And it feels to me a little bit like the end of 1999 at the beginning of 2000, when the American market was having an incredible run. It was driven by a different form of tech. It was all around the internet. And if you look at what happened after that bubble burst, emerging markets grew by about 160% over the decade. The American market took a decade to recover, but even European shares did well. So if that kind of a story, and it won't necessarily be emerging markets that deliver the growth this time around, maybe it's Europe or maybe it's Japan, who knows? But the point here is, if you spread your investments across the globe and you reduce your allocation to the very expensive parts of the market, and again, not going to zero, but just spreading, you start to give yourself the opportunity to benefit from the parts of the market that are cheap while still riding the wave, if the wave does carry on in the States for a time. And who knows where that American market will turn. Donald Trump could pull the rabbit out of a hat and just, land very low taxes, low interest rates, and good economic growth. I mean, it's possible, anything's possible. And so you don't want to be completely out of the US as well. I think that would be a huge mistake.
Sure, there's so much going on here. Isn't it amazing that no one really knows what's going to happen? Everyone has a view, but no one really knows. Warren, a question from Eugene for you tonight. Hi, says Eugene. I have a large outstanding home loan. I know I need to build an emergency fund. Should I focus on paying off the home loan, or should I build the emergency fund first? That's from Eugene. We'll have an answer for you, Eugene, in just a moment.
In Africa, we say the chameleon looks in all directions before moving. At Plus 94 Research, we understand the importance of careful consideration. By analyzing comprehensive data and diverse perspectives, we help you make informed decisions that stand the test of time. Don't leap without looking. Move forward with insight and precision. Plus 94 Research, the science of decision making.
Your coffee cup doesn't just disappear when you chuck it. Since most cups are lined with plastic, they stick around for centuries. BioPack makes South Africa's first locally manufactured home compostable cups and food cartons that break down naturally in just weeks. No plastic, no guilt, no microplastics, just smart packaging that serves you and the planet. BioPack, designed to disappear. Visit bio-pack.co.za. That's bio-pack.co.za to find out more.
Got your attention? That's the power of advertising.
Prime Media is SA's leading media company, giving you unmatched reach across radio, audio, video, and digital. That's what you'll experience at the Prime Impact Sales Event.
In Joburg, 3 to 7 November. Cape Town, 10 to 13 November. Register and receive a free demo commercial, a custom campaign, and access to exclusive partnerships.
Seats are filling fast. Register today at primeimpact.co.za.
When it comes to protecting your workforce, trust the workwear brand that has been protecting workers for over 150 years, Sweetall. Sweetall has overalls and uniform solutions for every industry, so your team is safe, comfortable, and ready to tackle any challenge. Visit our new Boksburg showroom, shop A1 Atlas Road, Westwood, Boksburg, or go to sweetall.com today. Sweetall, we never let you down. Superior protective workwear since 1871.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Banking. Absa is a proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa 2025.
The Money Show.
Personal Finance with Warren Ingram.
Your questions for Warren tonight. How do you ride the wave? 011 883 0702 021 446 0567 and voice notes, of course, on 072 702 1702. A question from Eugene for Warren. Hi, I have a large outstanding home loan. I know I need an emergency fund. Should I focus on paying off the home loan or build the emergency fund first? And Warren, I suppose Eugene's question is really about interest.
It is, and it's one of my favorite topics because I think if you're disciplined with your home loan, one of the things you can do is, you should always be doing it anyway, but you should try and pay extra money into your home loan every month. and if you get a bonus or some kind of an extra payout, drop that into the home loan as well. And what that does is it either reduces your monthly payments, or if you keep your monthly payments the same, it reduces the term of your bond by years. And you could get to the position where you have a paid off home within 12 years instead of 20 if you're disciplined. Now the trick here is you can always use that extra money that you've paid into your bond as an emergency fund. And for me, if you are disciplined around this, then it's my favorite place for an emergency fund, because the likelihood is that you might be paying prime or prime -1 on your home loan. And so any extra money that you store in there, I would view it as almost earning interest. You're saving yourself, let's say it's 9.5% or 10.5% a year. And the extra bonus here is it's tax-free because you're saving interest instead of earning it. And so you're getting kind of a guaranteed return of nearly 10% a year, one way or the other, tax-free. And what you're doing is you're allowing yourself the opportunity to knock the time down on your home loan, but making sure that the home loan is accessible. You can always get that money in the event of an emergency. And we always talk about this as, it's your emergency fund. It's not a planned expense fund. So you're hoping never to use this money. And so keeping it in the bond is a great idea. And so I would say to Eugene, you focus on building the emergency fund in your bond, and you're hitting two birds with one stone, and very few times in the world where you can do that so successfully. But this is the one. And it's probably my favorite personal finance tip for people with home loans.
Yeah, I mean, that can be just amazingly useful. I suppose when you're looking at the issues around a wave like this and you don't really know what to do, you could stick to your normal strategy if you have the right normal strategy.
Well, you said something a bit earlier that, it's amazing that no one knows. And that's a superpower. So having the humility and the self-awareness to say, I actually can't forecast the markets over the next 3 months or 5 or 7 years is something that very few people actually do. And, especially investment professionals, and I'm sure I'm going to make them grumpy if they're listening. But that's the truth. We don't know what's going to happen. And so if you don't know, then stop pretending that you're ever going to find out where markets are going. And so what you do is you build an investment strategy around the things you do know. You do know how old you are. You do know that you should plan, for a lifetime of probably, 85 to 95 years old. And you should have a sense of your own tolerance for stock market risk. And once you've got those kinds of parameters locked down, that starts to help you to say, well, if those are things that I know, then I can start to decide how much I invest in shares, how much I invest in bonds and property, et cetera, and equally that I should spread that, between South Africa and overseas. And all of those are factors that you have some influence over. And then you can look at the markets and say, okay, I've got extra money and it should go into shares, but the market's very expensive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed it into the market. I'm going to phase it in over a period of time. If you're sitting with 90% allocation to shares and you realize that you probably should have around 70%, then now is a good time to start rebalancing because the markets are expensive. And so you can phase that exposure out. So you can use your life and your circumstances and your plan to make very sensible decisions. And the reality is you're never going to be perfectly right, but you could be reasonably right most of the time, which is a heck of a lot better than most of the big fund managers out there.
Isn't it just another reminder that investing in like this personal finance is a long-term game? There's a wonderful Dr. Seuss quote, when it comes to life, the race is long and in the end, it's only with yourself. It's basically about making sure you get it right for you.
Exactly right. And just realizing that a lot of the time, the professional money managers are in a horse race. They're in a competition where they're ranked either against their peers or, internally, and they're measured month to month, quarter to quarter. And so they don't actually necessarily have the freedom that you've got as an individual, which is to say, gee, if I get this slightly wrong, if I didn't, participate in the market recovery as much as I could have, or, I sat on the stock market investments a little bit too long, all of that's stuff that's relevant to you, but you're not ranked against anybody else. So forming a strategy and measuring yourself against your own strategy is a superpower that you have. And it's the one thing that we can do. And it's the one advantage we have against very big institutions that, employ very bright people and spend millions and millions on AI and research and all those things, but they don't have the advantages we have. And we should take advantage of our special kind of circumstances and watch how we do well, and often don't underestimate the power of common sense. A little bit of common sense in times like these is really powerful.
And diversify. Warren Ingram, thanks very much indeed. The co-founder of Galileo Capital with Personal Finance tonight. Business decision makers, this one's for you. Sanlam Corporate's insurance solutions help you protect the people behind every payslip. Income protection, disability and life cover that keep households steady when life turns. They make it simple to recommend and easy to implement so you can focus on care, not admin. Because when you care, everyone benefits. Visit sanlamcorporate.co.za to partner with a team that treats every employee protection personally. Build an age of confidence together.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Banking. Absa is a proud lead sponsor of B20 South Africa 2025.
U.S. markets turning negative tonight. The Dow Jones down 0.33%, the Nasdaq down 0.7%, the S&P 500 down 0.46%, and the gold price right now, $3,983.79 an ounce. Good evening. It's 8 o'clock.
This